Madam Chairman, everyone is in from the waiting room.
Thanks, Monty. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call, I can't believe it's already the end of May. I would like to call the Tuesday, May 30th, 2023 Town of Rockport Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. First on the agenda this evening is public comment. We will also do a public comment at the end of the evening as well. I see Toby's hand up.
Thank you. Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. I see on the agenda you're to approve the contract for the housing needs assessment, housing production plan. This time it's called housing production plan. I have a number of questions and then some comments. It's called the plan, but is it also the housing needs assessment? Before they were hooked together due to the state's doings and decisions. I want to know whether that's for your board that commissioned it or the planning board. I want to know when it's supposed to be completed. I want to know how much money it cost, and then I have some comments.
Okay, I'm not sure if Mitch or Denise can answer those questions.
I can answer some of them. This is the housing production plan that was solicited by the planning board. It encompasses the housing needs assessment as a portion of the process. I believe it's going to begin as soon as the select board approves it, should we approve it. Mitch, I don't recall, was the budget 75,000? Did we lose Mitch?
He stepped away.
He's gone.
That's correct.
75,000, and I don't recall, is it supposed to be completed?
It was
September?
approximately a 5-month window.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
I see. Thank you. And is it town money or state grant money?
So it will, the recommendation is that it'll be ARPA money, and that'll be addressed more fully with the board when we get to that agenda item.
I see. And my comments, some of which you have heard before. The state has hooked together the needs assessment, which obviously is a good and useful thing. It's a tool. The housing production plan should not be connected to it. It is, thanks to the state. That's because when you have the needs assessment, it would not be up to, or should not be up to paid consultants, be they never so wise, to decide on what the town should do for affordable housing. Several members of your board, Denise and Sarah, have said that it would be up to your board. When Lori Kaiser was speaking about the housing trust, she said it would be up to the housing trust. I don't know who it's legally up to. That is another question, but certainly common sense and fair play, it should be up to your fellow citizens, that is all of us, because we're all going to pay for it and we're going to live with the results of it, whatever those might be. I feel that we need, with every study like this, a presentation of the end product, whatever they come up with, the needs assessment and the production plan, when it's in draft form, not final. A public hearing so that the consultants should present it, and members of town boards and committees ask questions, members of the public ask questions, and all of the questions need to be answered, none of them dismissed. And the same with the comments, be they however off the wall or hostile or nonsensical, there should be responses to everything. And if that's not possible at the hearing, it should all go in writing into the final product as an appendix from the public hearing. And I don't know whether you've included provisions for such a hearing in the specs for the contract, But if you've not, that's a sad mistake, but perhaps it could be righted by asking the consultants to do the proper thing, even if it is not in the contract. Will you ask the consultants to give us such a public hearing when the product is in draft form?
Toby, I think that's something that we'll have the board discuss when we get to that agenda item.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I was gonna ask Herm, I know you were obviously on the planning board as well. Did you want to add anything about the housing production plan at this point?
No, other than the fact that we need it. To me, it's not absolutely essential for us to have that housing production plan to go forward with affordable housing, because there's an absolute need for affordable housing, and we are so far behind the 8 ball that adding to affordable housing right now, by whatever percent we can add each year, is of necessity. But ultimately, we need the production plan because the state is demanding it of us. And as Harry Corsland's letter indicated, it is internally woven into the fabric of the request from the state that we need the housing production plan to satisfy their needs. That's part of the process by which we establish that we are moving towards the goal of 10% affordable housing. So it all fits together.
Agree. Okay, thanks. Next, I see Barbara Kaplan's hand up, Monty. Hey, Barbara.
4 Ocean Avenue. I have been coming to the select board meetings since December. And as you all know, I'm on the Rockport Affordable Housing Coalition that is very interested in developing affordable housing according to the state requirements. And I am very interested in following the ARPA money because I know it's $2 million and we're hoping to see some of that for developing affordable housing. And at each of our meetings for the last, I'd say probably 3 months, I have heard that within a couple of weeks, there will be a survey so we can get townspeople input. Now, I respect that you are all up there doing the work and I am not, but when is this survey going to be forthcoming? And
So
why?
it's certainly something that we have said a number of times, and there are many pressing needs. As of 2 weeks ago, we're no longer short-staffed. We're training an employee. So we have a lot of pressing needs that are on us right now. It's something that will go out imminently. It's in the list among many other urgent matters.
Great. Thanks. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, hearing none. Okay, next we have consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight, we have approval of minutes, if any, 2023 license and permit approvals, year-end transfers, seasonal position appointments, approval of the FinFun New England events, appointment of treasurer collector operations assistant, appointment of zoning board and general meetings clerk, and approval and award of bond issuance.
Madam Chair, if you would please exclude the bond.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, isn't there a separate motion
There
for
is.
that? Okay, so we'll exclude the bond issuance. That is a separate. So is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that the board approve all non-held items on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. I forgot to add at the beginning of the meeting that Selectman Murphy can't be with us tonight. It's the high school end of the year award, sports awards. So he is attending that for his son who's graduating this week. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Any questions? Hearing none. Selectman Brackett,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectwoman Wilkinson. Aye, the motion carries. Next, I see we have our finance director, Carrie Arnaud here. Carrie, do you want to talk about the bond motions? Are you here to talk about the bond motion?
Yes, correct.
Great, go right ahead.
So we are carrying a note at present for $500,000, which is maturing next month. With that note, there are some additional authorizations. In the aggregate, we have roadway improvements at 1.2 million. We have water main replacement at 1.2 million. We have door and window replacement project at 450,000, and we have 250,000 of I&I improvements. That in the aggregate comes to $3.1 million, which we have already gone to market and it's been sold. We had 6 bids. The final bid came in at a net interest cost of 3.487%. And that will be turned over to us on June 14th.
Great. Any questions from the board? I have a question, Carrie. You said that we had 6 bids, I think.
6 bids, correct.
Is that to average, like typical, high, low?
It depends on what's going. I've seen as many as a dozen, but I would not say that that's often. So it's usually about a half dozen or so.
Okay, cool. Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a motion.
There is, fasten your seatbelts, everyone. Take a
Poor
while.
Denise, you always get these.
I move that the sale of the 2,905,000 general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2023 bonds of the town dated June 14th, 2023, the bonds to Piper Sandler and Company at the price of $3,158,833.45 and accrued interest, if any, is hereby approved and confirmed. The bonds shall be payable on October 1 of the years and in the principal amounts and bear interest at the respective rates as follows. Year 2023, amount 180,000, interest rate 5%. Year 2024, 180,000, interest rate 5%. Year 2025, 180,000, interest rate 5%. Year 2026, 175,000, 5%. 2027, 175,000, 5%. 2028, 175,000, 5%. 2029, 170,000, 5%. 2030, 170,000, 5%. 2031, 160,000, 5%. 2032, 160,000, 5%. 2033, 160,000, 5%. 2035, 320,000, 5%. 2037, 300,000, 5%. 2042, 400,000, 4%. Further voted that the bonds maturing on October 1st, 2035, October 1st, 2037, and October 1st, 2042, each a term bond, shall be subject to mandatory redemption or mature as follows. Term bond due on October 1st, 2035, date October 1st, 2034, principal amount 160,000. October 1st, 2035, which is maturity, principal amount 160,000. Term bond due October 1st, 2037, date October 1st, 2036, principal amount 160,000. October 1st, 2037, which is maturity 140,000. Term bond due October 1st, 2042, date October 1st, 2038, principal amount 80,000. October 1st, 2039, 80,000. October 1st, 2040, 80,000. October 1st, 2041, 80,000. October 1st, 2042, which is maturity 80,000. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the bonds, the preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated May 16th, 2023, and a final official statement dated May 23rd, 2023, the official statement, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that the bond shall be subject to redemption at the option of the town upon such terms and conditions as are set forth in the official statement. Further voted that the town treasurer and the Board of Selectmen be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a continuing disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C 2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the bonds for the benefit of the holders of the bonds from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct the town treasurer to establish post-issuance federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures in such forms as the town treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax exempt status of the bonds and to comply with relevant securities law. Further voted that any certificates or documents related to the bonds, collectively the documents, may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original, and all of which shall constitute one and the same document. Delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature page to a document by electronic mail in a PDF file or by other electronic transmission shall be as effective as delivery of a manually executed counterpart signature page to such document. And electronic signatures on any of the documents shall be deemed original signatures for the purposes of the documents and all matters relating thereto, having the same legal effect as original signatures. Further voted that each member of the Board of Selectmen, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes. That's it, folks.
Sorry, can you repeat the first paragraph? I'm kidding.
The motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, Selectman Brackett,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectwoman Wilkinson, aye. The motion carries. Anything else, Carrie?
That's it.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Okay, next we have consider approval of the program that we had the presentation for at our last meeting, the We Slow Down in Our Town initiative. Would someone like, Denise, you have this motion too?
It's a nice short one.
Okay,
I move that the board approve the We Slow Down in Our Town program as presented at the board's last meeting.
great. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Great, the motion has been made and seconded. And does anyone have further comment on this?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, this was the program that the police chief offered to donate funds to, and then we told her that would probably go to something like Awesome Rockport if she needed more funds, but it obviously a very nice initiative. Okay, hearing nothing else. All those, sorry, I keep wanting to say all those in favor. Selectman Brackett,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectwoman Wilkinson, aye. Motion carries. Next, we have consider approval of the home funds designation. Is there a motion?
You want to make a motion? Yep.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the board designate its next round of home funds for Harbor Light Community Partners.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Motion has been made and seconded. Mitch, can you explain a little bit about this so that?
Sure, Madam Chair, the, excuse me, the home funds program, we've been receiving funds for that for many, many years. Every year, the town needs to designate where those funds go. The funding period would provide approximately $28,000. As you see in the packet in the letter, it does need to go to a brick and mortar project. hence the note for Harbor Light.
I had a question.
Yep.
I may, Madam Chair. So I noticed that it's designated for rental housing only, brick and mortar, and that it must be designated to a specific project. Do we need to include in the motion, Mitch, that it's for the Granite Street Crossing project, do you think?
I think you could certainly add that.
Okay. Would someone like to, do you want to amend the motion?
Yeah, I just would like, I guess I would like to amend the motion to indicate that the home fund funds be allocated to Harbor Light Community Partners for the Granite Street Crossing project.
Okay. Okay,
Also gonna,
okay, motion, the amendment has been made. Is it the amendment or are we on the amendment or the main motion? Just,
it's only made one.
yeah,
In the
Okay.
main, yep.
Now,
perfect, great.
Well, if I may, Madam Chair, what does that do for the other rental property that they maintain for us in town? Do they ever need those funds for those other properties or no?
So this specifically has to go to a building
Company.
A
project.
building,
for it.
okay.
Yeah, good catch. And it does have, it is supposed to be designated for a specific project. Yeah. Okay, great. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. Selectman Brackett,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectwoman Wilkinson. Aye. Motion carries. Next we have consider approval of off-premises sign permit for Rockport Golf Club.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a motion. I move that the board approve the off-premises sign for the Rockwood Golf Club Fox Den Grill.
Great.
I'll
Is-
second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. And this is for the Rockport Golf Club already has a sign on South Street. This is to put a smaller additional sign attached to that sign, saying that their grill, which is called the Fox Den. Has it always been called that? I didn't know.
I don't think it existed beyond prior
Got
to
it.
last year when they got the license.
Okay, got it. Is open to the public. So we received a picture of it. Are there any questions, comments from the board?
No, I think anything we can do to help them keep the golf club alive is a good thing. So I'm all for it.
I agree. Okay, hearing no more comments. Selectman Brackett,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectwoman Wilkinson. Aye, motion carries. Next we have consider award of housing production plan bid. Is there a motion?
I have a motion, Madam Chair.
Great.
I move that the board award the housing production plan to Answer Advisory Services, subject to final approval of ARPA funds by this board.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made. Seconded. Mitch, do you want to make a few comments about this?
Sure. So a portion of it has already been discussed, but to add to what was shared during public comment, Selectman Lilia and Donnelly and I and the chair of the planning board, Jason Shaw, had a review of the proposal with the firm, a chance to discuss timeline, ask questions, get a presentation from them. All felt comfortable with moving forward with that firm. So we received two proposals. One of them was deemed non-responsive because of the pricing plan that was put forward, so it was not considered valid. So that left us with one. We were comfortable with the one that was submitted based on what was there. So looking forward to getting this going and moving it forward. And certainly if Selectman Donnelly or Lilia would like to add anything from their part of the discussion as well.
One quick comment, if I may.
Sure.
The curiosity that I have is that will the start of the Answer contract begin before or contingent with the ARPA approval? In other words, we don't want to delay the housing production plan, so what is the actual start date of the Answer project?
So as part of your vote tonight, we have that listed, just to really highlight that it is ARPA funding. So by approving it this evening, it would be an authorization for use of the ARPA money
Okay.
for this purpose.
Thank you.
Can you just say that last part again, Mitch?
So because it is ARPA, instead of simply saying it's approved, we've made a note in the motion to specifically call out that it's ARPA funding for
Okay,
this purpose.
Denise, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I just want to speak to the comment that Toby made. No consultant is going to be deciding for the town what is appropriate in the housing production plan itself. That will be something that I expect will come about as a result of discussion and input from the planning board, from the public, from the select board. It's not something a consultant is going to tell us to do. It's going to be something that we will formulate during the process of the development of the plan. And the plan is also not static. It's something that we will review from time to time and make changes as needed.
Is that correct? And once it's submitted, is that not the plan? We can't
Right,
make
but you
changes
have,
until we resubmit to the state.
we have to update it from time to time.
Why, or once a year, something of this order?
I don't know what the schedule is, but we do have to update it from time to time.
That's true. Okay, all right.
Any more comments on this? Nope, hearing none. Selectman Brackett,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Wilkinson. Aye, motion carries. Great, and then next we have two things tonight, long time coming, the housing production plan bid and the Pigeon Cove firehouse designer. So next we have consider award of Pigeon Cove fire designer bid. Is there a motion?
There is. I move that the board award the Pigeon Cove Fire Station Designer Services contract to Gale Associates as negotiated.
I'll second that.
Great, motion has been made and seconded. Mitch, did you want to just give a quick update on this?
Sure, Madam Chair, and I'm glad Monica's here as well. So
Oh,
the town put out again for designer selection services for this purpose. We received several responses back. Fortunately, this time, some additional funding was approved, as the board is aware, coming out of a previous town meeting. And Gale Associates was the top ranked coming out of the review process. Monica and I had a number of sessions with them, negotiating, as well as a number of emails. I want to thank Monica, who is chair of the designer selection committee, for her effort in moving this forward and engaging with Gale and us to bring this to some closure. After a number of back and forths, we're comfortable with the proposal as it has been negotiated. This will allow us to move forward now with this long overdue project that's in place. And certainly, Monica, if you want to add anything.
No, thank you. You did a nice job, Mitch. This is really an exciting moment because this has been a very long time coming. And we were all very much impressed with Gale right from the start. And they seem genuinely interested in the project. They are a large firm with a very deep bench, shall we say, and a lot of in-house capability. And so they bring a lot to the table for us. And as I said, they genuinely seem interested in this project. They do projects of all sizes in many, many different communities. And I think this is a good step forward for us. And I'm very hopeful that we'll be very pleased with the outcome. So thank you for your approval.
Great, thanks so much, Monica. Any further comments or questions from the board? It's exciting to see this going. Okay, here,
Absolutely.
Selectman Brackett,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectwoman Wilkinson. Aye. Okay, I believe that's it for action items. Moving on to Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator updates, we have a finance update.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. So we are in the process of continuing to work towards the close of FY '23 through the various year-end transfers that this board has approved and the Finance Committee has approved. As we have gone through the process, we continue to monitor the budget on an ongoing basis. So every week after the approved payroll and expense warrants are done, accounting generates a year-to-date report to myself and the finance director. We give that close scrutiny and just to make sure that everything is going as we expect. As of right now, it appears that all is in good order on that. We do have, as you have seen through a number of year-end transfers, DPW has a number of areas to address, snow and ice related and utility related areas. And certainly that has really put a squeeze on things. The utility issue was a pretty significant issue for them this year. So we continue to closely monitor that to be sure that they finish in good stead. And to make sure that and monitor any other areas that may require a particular transfer to address so that we close out in good shape. FY '24 accounting will very shortly through our consultant begin to make sure everything is squared away and populated appropriately for '24, that the votes are where they need to be as certified by the clerk to get us moving forward. So '24 we are in good shape capital wise. We have orders placed as far as we can for equipment, for vehicles. Over the last month, departments have been getting those in anticipation because many of them take a significant amount of time. So there is one area that we are going to end up likely needing to make a shift on as far as purchasing, and I'm just going to pull that up. So the police department has had some fairly significant and ongoing issues with hybrid vehicles. We've purchased a number of hybrids over the last couple of years for their fleet. And there have been some pretty significant issues. At one point, we were down, I want to say 2 or 3 vehicles at once out for repair and issues related with the hybrid vehicles. I'm just pulling up the chief's message to me on this topic. So there are a number of issues, particularly relating to the electrical components. So those vehicles, the police vehicles have, as you're aware, significant additional electronics that a normal Ford Explorer simply doesn't. And it has a very significant draw on the vehicles. Our mechanic, our fleet services mechanic, Mr. Drillis, the fleet services officers at the police department, the police chief have been going back and forth. We've had vehicles at MHQ for repair where they've come from. We've had for warranty work. We've had vehicles have to be sent out to the Ford dealership a number of times and for significant amounts of time. And in some cases, they come back and then the service light comes right back on again. And it's not just us. There are a number of departments. Our vendor MHQ has provided us with a number of other departments who are having the same types of issues as we've been going. And certainly having more than one vehicle down for our department is a challenge. It's a pretty significant challenge. We only have a certain amount of frontline cruisers available. The chief is concerned about purchasing another hybrid at this point based on these ongoing concerns and the concerns that are raised by the mechanic and by our vendors and by the dealers. The chief would like to proceed forward with the purchase of a gas-only vehicle for the FY '24 vehicle purchase. Not ideal, but based on the recommendation from the fleet services mechanic and the vendor, they are strongly advising that we go to gas for the time being while these issues are worked out. So I wanted to just raise that to the board because we had certainly said we've been moving towards the full hybrid fleet. And we're at a point now where it is causing some significant issues. So the chief is concerned about making another purchase for a frontline cruiser as hybrid at this point. Again, the mechanic and our vendor are saying that is recommended that we go to gas at the moment. So I wanted to raise that to the board.
Denise, did you have a comment?
I have just a couple questions.
Sure.
Do we have to purchase these vehicles from Ford?
So the frontline cruiser that we utilize is a Ford Explorer.
So we couldn't use, for example, a Toyota?
Though there are only certain types of vehicles that make police models.
Okay,
So for a number of years, the common one was a Crown Victoria.
Yeah.
There's a particular type of model that doesn't exist anymore, but the Ford Explorer and a number of other types of vehicles have that police setup.
okay.
So it's not something that's more broad in that particular case.
And is there no electric option, all electric as opposed to hybrid? No. Okay.
There is not at this time. Not that, well, let me rephrase that because I don't want to be told that there is and I didn't know about it. Not that is being recommended for frontline public safety use at this time.
Okay, that's too bad.
So barring an objection, unfortunately, this is what it looks like for us for this vehicle at the moment. Hopefully, things are sorted out and we can get back to going hybrid again, as we have been doing the last couple of years for these frontline vehicles.
Denise?
Just one more question, Madam Chair. Do you have a sense, Mitch, that Ford is aware of this problem with these vehicles from the dealer, or any idea if this is kind of making it to higher levels?
So the dealer has indicated to the chief, from what I'm reading, that they are aware, because they're the ones who in many cases are having to do the actual repairs because the vehicles are under warranty.
Mhm.
So it is something they're aware of. It doesn't say anything about any kind of significant acknowledgement from them on it.
Yeah.
But the vendor writes to the chief, these issues are becoming far too commonplace. We are selling hybrids where customers are experiencing months of downtime as they
Oh,
try to
wow.
address the internal diagnostics problems. And one of the issues that comes up, as the vendor indicates here, warning lights continuously going on and off for these vehicles. In some cases, a real problem may or may not exist. But unfortunately, this triggers the car, and I'm reading from the vendor here, the car to go into a safe mode, which
Mm.
caps the top speed at 20 miles an hour
Mm.
and deactivates the other electronic components.
Oh, wow.
So which then triggers that vehicle to kind of limp its way back
Mhm.
to where it needs to go. So it's
Okay.
known to them. I just don't know that there's any kind of more
Yeah.
significant, larger.
If I
Okay.
may, Madam Chair,
Sure.
how often do we recycle the cruisers?
They're on, I
they-
believe, a 3-year cycle.
So they're always under warranty for the most part?
I think for the most part, they usually are. We usually move them along at 3 years because they have some, less on the mileage end, but more significantly on the engine runtime. Some are kept for other services. Most are traded back in.
And what's the price difference with the hybrid and the gas?
Don't know off the top of my head. I know that it was something that's comparable in my last discussion with the chief. So if there is a difference, he's confident he can cover that in his operating budget.
Alrighty.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I think we should just obviously review it every, the next time we go to get another vehicle. Hopefully it will improve.
Yep, and we'll be sure that we factor in each capital cycle that that it's reviewed in detail with the fleet services mechanic.
Great. Great. Oh, Herm?
Yeah, I'll just comment that, I'm in favor of hybrids and I'm further in favor of electrics, but state of the art simply isn't there. And if the demands with regard to a police cruiser are such that a hybrid cannot achieve what is necessary with regard to the electrical system, that's the way it is. And we just have to live with it for the moment.
Yep. Agreed.
And I think just important to highlight too, it's not to say that there's no police vehicle that it could function for. These are the frontline cruisers, which is certainly a different demand than an administrative vehicle or an
Mhm.
auxiliary vehicle that we may utilize. So just to point that out, I wouldn't want people to believe that we can't do any type of hybrid purchase because the frontline vehicle is different than auxiliary or administrative services vehicles.
Yep. Great. Thanks for bringing that up, Mitch. Okay.
Okay. That's what I have at the moment on that. Oh, so I'm sorry, ARPA, the ARPA survey. So after some back and forth with it, I have an introduction written for it. And frankly, it's one open-ended question at this point, with I would say a fairly lengthy, which I need to trim down a bit, introductory piece at the beginning, trying to give some context to appropriate uses of ARPA funds from the Treasury. So, despite where we are staffing wise, we will endeavor to get that out as soon as we can. But we have many critical matters that are continue to be in line, so we'll get it as soon as we can.
Yeah, and I think at a meeting soon, we should talk in the next month about explaining. I think there is definitely some confusion, not only about what the ARPA funds can be used for, but what other funds can be used for. I noticed at town meeting, there was some confusion. I think it's probably good just to have a general update for people on what funds can be used for what. Does that make sense? At town meeting, there were people who I think was at town meeting, or someone who reached out to me who wanted to use ARPA money for some operating stuff. And, and I think there's some confusion over what CPC funds can be used for, what ARPA, what operating.
Sure.
And so I think it's probably good if we just do a little refresher for people to, and then maybe get it on the website or something.
Sure, certainly, Madam Chair, we can do that. And just to speak about the internal methodology as we think about funds like ARPA and other one-time sources of revenue. We don't, it's our practice, it's been the town's longtime practice that we do not utilize one-time revenues to carry out ongoing and operating expenses. That is how, as the board is aware, you create a structural deficit.
Right.
So we simply do not operate that way. So anything that may come from it and what your final decisions will be, the recommendation will always be that it be for one-time items, that it not be deployed for recurring matters.
Yeah. I also would like to, I think we've received one more inquiry from a local nonprofit. Maybe
We have.
I think it was since the last meeting. So also I would like us to discuss a process by which maybe we set a certain small amount of funds. I mean, unfortunately, I think we all know the amount of infrastructure costs that have added up since COVID. But I would love to see us set a small amount aside for local organizations who have struggled and frankly are some of them are drowning because, post COVID. So I would just like our board to discuss a process that if the majority of the board agrees, that we could have people apply or send letters of interest or something. So I'd like to add that to an agenda soon if others are okay with it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Great. That's kind of separate from the just getting the public's input. So, great. Mitch, did you have anything else?
That covers the first item. Do you want to just move through as the number, Madam Chair? Do you want me
Sure,
to cover the
yeah.
specific ones?
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
Okay, so the specific one, so the long-range financial plan grant. As the board is well aware, we've received the community compact grant for a long-range financial plan. The intention is that we will get started on that fairly imminently. And we'd like to utilize a small core group of individuals to help do some of the legwork to move that process forward. Any and all significant decisions, final decisions, direction, acceptance of plans, adoption of things will be done in public meetings and will be done by full boards. So the primary boards related to this plan are the selectmen, the school committee, and the finance committee. So any final decisions would be made based on votes of those boards. So just to be clear about that up front, a core group of individuals necessary to get the process moving behind the scenes and address some of the other planning and logistical items that come up, and for the the representatives to report back to their respective bodies. The intention is that they'll be, in addition to staff, 2 selectmen, 2 finance committee members, and 2 school committee members. I've spoken with the finance committee, and they're in the process of determining their 2. The chair is in the process of that. And I would put it out to the board this evening to solicit 2 members who are interested in that. Madam Chair, would be your prerogative to designate that. So I would encourage, if there are members who are interested, to let you know, so you can make a determination on the selectmen's 2 representatives for this project.
Great. Why don't just people reach out to me directly offline if they're interested? Does that sound okay?
Mhm.
Great. That's exciting, Mitch. I feel like we haven't really tackled something like that. Honestly, since I've been on the board, I know we try to do long range stuff, but it's difficult. And oftentimes, it's so hard to get ahead of things.
This is a unique opportunity for us.
Yeah.
It's engaging with UMass, and it will be something that is a dynamic and ongoing tool for us to use. It comes with, we were able to write into the grant a significant amount of training time and scenario-based creation time with the consultants. So we'll be able to work through a variety of scenarios and ensure that our staff have the capability of utilizing the tool once we're done with the project. So it will be something that will be able to serve the town for many years moving forward. And I think besides the actual tool, I think it'll play an important role for selectmen, school committee, and finance committee to coalesce around some direction, some long-range thoughts, plans in moving the town forward.
Great.
Next, Madam Chair, gourmet specialty store alcohol license. We recently had an inquiry for that license. As the board is aware, there are 2 of those licenses that we received via special legislation. One is with Seaview Farms. The other was with Sea and Cellar. They have since closed, so there is one license that's available. There was a recent inquiry for that open license. It led us to going through the file on that, and we do have a waiting list associated with that license. There are a number of individuals and/or businesses who had, at the time of the initial licenses being granted, expressed interest should one ever open up. Looking at the list and some of our backup materials we have information on some and not on others. So I'm looking to put it out there for the board on how you'd like us to proceed with this particular issue. So as you're aware, the gourmet specialty license has a very specific set of parameters associated with it on what's allowed and what is not allowed for achieving that license. And again, we have individuals and businesses, some established, some not, who have expressed interest. And I just like some direction from you on how you'd like us to proceed through that list. As far as outreach, giving time frames for getting anything back from vendors, from proposers, things like that.
Are you asking for that now at this time?
Well, I don't need an answer at this exact moment, but we will in the near future. I just want to put it on your radar
Sure.
that I would encourage you to take a look at the content of that specific license so you can see exactly what it is, to give you a refresher on it, and how you would deem it appropriate to work through a particular wait list for something like this.
Yeah, I mean, without giving it a ton of thought, my gut tells me, because it's obviously a significant amount of time has passed since they even express interest, would be, and this is just food for everyone to think about. We can discuss it at our next meeting, but to reach out to everyone on the list and just quickly, ask them very quickly if they're still interested. And then maybe if they are, then we have, a period of time that they submit a proposal to us.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't want to waste that period of time if of that, say there are 10 people on the list. I have no idea how many there are. Say there are 10, but only 2 are still interested, then we may want to adjust, and consider something different. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I don't know, but everyone give it some thought. We can discuss it at our next meeting.
And in the meantime, we will engage with the ones who remain on the list, just to verify whether they do still have interest or not, so that when you speak next time, we'll have some additional context. But I would just ask the board to be thinking about how you'd like something like this to proceed, because it is a one-off license. It's not a standard license in this case.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to just reach out and ask if they're still interested. And that way we'll have an idea of how many are actually like on the waiting list.
Yep. And we have there are 1 or 2 names on it, which we don't have any contact info for. We'll try to find those individuals, but just putting it out there now, there are some that we have nothing on other than a name. So we'll do our best to track them down, but just to make the board aware of that as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
And then, Madam Chair, affordable housing support, Selectman Lilia had raised the question relating to seeking the board's support for affordable housing, and that discussion point.
Okay.
Yep.
Sure.
If I misread. So I had submitted a letter requesting that the chair of the select board give consideration to writing a letter of support for the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust Fund to be used in support of the application to CPC. The application of CPC does in fact ask for boards and committees in town that have been approached for support with regard to applications of CPC, which many of you perhaps already know. Anyway, it is my expectation that the Board of Selectmen will support the organization that they initiated, that is the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust Fund, with regard to the application that has been submitted. That application is for consideration. Yes, it's for consideration of a late application, but the members of the board understand why the application was late, if you will. So therefore, we don't need to get into that aspect of it, but we do need the support of the board. I think it's appropriate that the board support something that they initiated.
So sorry, Herm, I apologize if I missed something, but did you open up by saying you sent a letter asking for support? Did I
Yes,
miss?
My recollection is that it came up, maybe it didn't come up at the last meeting, that there was reference to a request for support with regard to CPC submission. And I
No,
believe
It came the day before, Sarah, so it came to me.
oh,
So
so
I know we've discussed it. We
oh, it
have seen
went
the
to
actual
you.
email. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So got it. Okay. So it went to you. So I haven't, that's why I haven't seen it, because it went to you personally.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay. I
well,
understand.
if I remember correctly, there was commentary at the last meeting with regard to that, but be that as it may, there's still a request out there for a letter of support from the select board with regard to the application that has been submitted to CPC for consideration of funds,
Got it.
not
Okay.
for approval, but simply for consideration of the funds. So that's what I and the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust Fund are asking of the select board.
Wait, so I guess I'm confused the difference between approval of funds and support.
Yeah, this is a letter acknowledging that the application was late, which is exactly what was in fact the case. But given the need for affordable housing, there is a need to consider an appropriation of funds at this time to put this off for another year, delays affordable housing in Rockport for another year, number one. Number two, we cannot, the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust Fund, expect that any other organization, a foundation or trust, or even federal agencies, state agencies are going to be willing to give us funding if in fact the town that in fact is requesting the funds isn't supporting itself. So here we have CPC funds. CPC funds are for affordable housing. That is one of the 3 designations for distribution of CPC funds. 2, we have plenty of funds. We have over $1 million in unspent funds in the CPC. 3, CPC has said on several occasions that there may be an emergency, and therefore it is wise to keep funds available for it. Well, here's an emergency. Let's get going. There is a piece of property that exists at the intersection of, well, 5 corners, which could be considered for affordable housing. Can't do anything with that unless we have funds allocated to the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Then we can garner more funds from trusts and foundations, but we can do nothing without the support of the town. We are the town. The select board is the town. We authorize the activation of this in February. Therefore, I feel we need to do something about it.
So can I speak for 1 second on this? No. So I think there's some confusion because this came up at the last meeting because I think it was Toby during public comment had said that the board, and I don't want to put words in Toby's mouth. So Toby can correct me if I'm wrong at the public comment period, but the way I understood it was that Toby said that we should write a letter in support. And my comments actually had absolutely nothing to do with it being an affordable housing application. But I just know, and I know this from personal experience, that the Board of Selectmen, that we don't write letters at this period of community preservation applications, because it could look like we are trying to influence the Community Preservation Committee, and they're deciding what gets pushed forward and pushed back. And I know that because I actually, when I first was looking to apply for Evans Field money, I thought the Board of Selectmen could apply. And I learned that we can apply, and that I had to find a department to apply. So then I went to the DPW, and that basically, so we don't have undue influence, the appropriate time for us to basically support or not support a project is after CPC has decided what to approve. So my comments, I mean, I think I've been like ridiculously clear, and I hope you feel this way, that I of course support affordable housing. My comments were having to do with consistency and what's appropriate. And I'm just trying to follow kind of our own rules and policies, I guess. It has nothing to do with being unsupportive. I'm wildly supportive of the trust, wildly supportive of affordable housing. And there is plenty of time in the process for us to support community preservation projects. That's just where I'm coming from. Denise or Ross?
Yeah, I just want to say, of course, Herm, I hope you know that I too am extremely supportive of affordable housing and of the municipal trust. I guess where my concern lies, in addition to what Sarah said, but I remember in the conversation that we had when we were voting on approving the trust, that the trust would come back to the board to work with us on developing a strategy. So I'm concerned because if you're already talking about purchasing a property, when we haven't had an opportunity to talk with the trust about strategy, has the trust decided the town is going to be a landlord? What is the process? What is the strategy? Who are you targeting? I guess I was hoping we could have a conversation about what the strategy of the trust is and how you plan to proceed and what populations you're targeting and so forth before you actually execute a purchase of a property when we don't know the direction that you're going in. So that's my concern. Of course, I support you.
That's not the point. The point is we're not actually working towards the purchase of a piece of property. That would in fact be a discussion topic, but we can do nothing without having funds in the hopper to purchase it. This is a consideration of an application. It is your support for consideration of an application, not for a specified amount of money, despite the fact that there is a recommendation for a request, or there is a request for a specified amount of money in the application. But it's whether or not the board is going to say that they support affordable housing in town with a vote that supports the consideration of this application. Because if you don't support this consideration, this application, then the CPC can come back and say the Board of Selectmen has not submitted a letter of recommendation. And therefore, like I have requested from all the other boards and committees in town, or many of them, for such a statement. You also then frustrate my efforts to try to get statements of support from any other boards. It's self-defeating. This
No,
is
it's the
wait.
the
Please let me finish. Please let me finish. Again, this is only with regard to consideration of the application. The application was late because the Board of Selectmen delayed it. And you, saying it frankly, you and Denise delayed it.
What?
And therefore, because we revoted, don't hold your mouth open, because you revoted to then support the Housing Trust Fund in town. You did. So therefore, that being the case, you have to give consideration to the fact that that was part of the reason why this was late. We couldn't form a committee. We couldn't do anything. And now, if you want to delay it another year, then say so, that you don't care, because that's what it'll be. It'll be, don't shake your head, because it's not, it is another year. There will be no funds devoted to this organization for another whole year. In other words, it won't happen until September of 2024. So that's what you're saying to the town. You're saying it to all the other committees. So please think of that.
I mean, Madam Chair,
Sure.
I'll start by saying I don't think it's right to write a letter that would go against the practice of the CPC. I don't know how many times they've accepted late applications. That's something I'd look into. But on top of that, I don't know what the application says, so I'm not going to support just because it's late. I'm not going to support it just because it's late and that we think it needs to go through. I haven't seen the application. Apologies if you sent it to us, but I don't want to throw weight behind it if it's something that's just asking for money. So we're going back and forth here arguing when we could be buckling down, or the Housing Authority Trust could be buckling down and having a full application done for next year. I mean, I've talked to the other members of the committee. They're kind of surprised that this was even happening.
How can you talk with the other members of the committee without having me involved? How can you do that? You cannot talk to the other members of the committee, this committee here?
No, I'm talking about the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust. And yes, I can talk to another member of the Board of Selectmen if I
No,
wanted
but
to.
you can't talk with all, it was as if you had been talking to the select board.
Yes, that's again, just assuming. Just like I don't want to assume what the application is. I'd like to see it. So with that said, I can't just support it because, as you know, I've been going to your meetings. I asked that question that Selectwoman Donnelly asked this morning. What do we want to be? And I got 4 different answers. Renting, someone wanted to be landlords, someone wanted to do use harbor lights, and then I think one of the persons said they wanted to have affordable ownership. So that's 4 different answers. So the committee doesn't even have a direction yet. So you're asking us to throw money behind it without a direction.
No, I'm
as
not
far as I'm
asking you to
concerned.
do that. I'm only asking for consideration.
So what's the
Because
application have?
the
in front
money
of
is
you?
not voted on until town meeting. You don't vote on the money. There's no money being voted on here. This is simply a consideration of that application. That's all the support that I'm looking for.
And what's that application?
Going too far down the road by virtue of saying that it's for a particular purpose. The application, if you read it, says, what could your proposal be if you had one? Therefore, I included the Thomas Wilson's factory. But this is simply the support of the board to have the CPC consider the application.
So Herm, I apologize, but I feel like you're trying to twist the rules to benefit
No.
your own
There are
application.
no rules.
And if
There are
we're-
no rules.
But we have practices in place that we practice that are to keep the playing field even for everyone who applies for CPC money. It's just like the reason that there are deadlines for applications. Frankly, one year I didn't get my application in and I lost out and had to wait until the next year. It feels to me like if we aren't going to follow and frankly, the only practice, and I shouldn't have said policy, I should say practice, is that I would assume that the members of the CPC know that the Board of Selectmen doesn't write letters in advance, because we wait and we vote right before town meeting, whether or not we support or not support. We actually have two ways that we support or not support. We also have to vote to put the proposals on the warrant. But the reason that we don't do letters now is because CPC is a separate committee that votes. It's not appropriate. And frankly, it's really inappropriate for us to try to influence what the CPC puts forth and what doesn't. The timing, the how late it is, it doesn't matter. Even if the application were on time, that has no bearing on my opinion of just doing what's appropriate and what isn't.
If I may, Madam Chair,
Sure.
it's my understanding that they are considering it anyways. I thought it was on their agenda. Is that incorrect?
They are allowing me to speak. Yes, that's quite
All right.
correct.
So
But-
then why do
but
you need
the
a
fact-
letter from
But
us?
that excludes consideration of the fact that the application includes those organizations that you have solicited for support for your application. So the application can come in. Part of the consideration is to look at the letters of support. That's what I'm saying. I would argue that the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust Fund is not the select board. It is apart from the select board. So don't think that you, by virtue of supporting the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that this is a request by the Board of Selectmen for funding of this organization. I don't believe, unless I would say that we are, as the Rockport Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that's separate from the select board. So it's not the same as you, Sarah, when you were on the Board of Selectmen and you're requesting funds for the ball field. That's entirely different. You then did it by having a separate organization. This is a separate organization. Sure.
I totally
There's
agree.
oversight, but there's still a separate organization.
I completely agree. I think that you're kind of mixing apples and oranges. I
No.
agree that it's a separate organization, and that's why it's not appropriate for me to tell this at this point in the process. It's just up to the CPC what they move forward. And after the Community Preservation Committee decides what to move forward, then we decide whether or not to support it. I would never want to influence them into deciding what they move forward at this stage in the game. That's why they're appointed completely separate from, that's why we have appointed them to the Community Preservation Committee. Because frankly, if we were going to support and not support things at this point, then why wouldn't we just pick and choose what we wanted? Like, it's a separate committee for a reason.
I
I'm
disagree,
more than happy-
but if
I'm
this
more
is
than
going to
happy
be,
support it at the appropriate time.
if this is going to be a difference of opinion over a variation on a presentation here that is not going to be, I can't convince you of the difference that in fact is real, then I would like each of you as members of the public to write letters of support. If you won't write them a letter of support as the Board of Selectmen, write a letter of support for affordable housing and send it to the CPC. Do it that way.
But we are members. I feel bad here because I think you're taking it away that we don't support I support affordable housing. I fully support the trust. I hope that you guys get some type of plan in place or project, but this just is not the appropriate time. And I can't write a letter individually because we are members of the Board of Selectmen. Like we can't like mask ourselves as members of the public, unfortunately.
You can write an independent letter, but why is this not the time to in fact be moving ahead? Why is delaying all of this another year in the best interest of the town?
We aren't delaying anything. We are sticking with with a long-standing practice of the Board of Selectmen that at this stage in the community preservation process, we don't have a say in it. There are two stages in the process where it's appropriate for the Board of Selectmen or members to have a say in it. And that's when we put the articles on the warrant, And that's when we vote whether or not to support the specific articles. But at this point, it's up to the CPC. Like, it
Yeah.
would look like we were trying to influence what the CPC was doing if we were to write in right now. We don't ever write in at this stage. I don't think we've done so for years and years.
This is just with regard to consideration of the application. It has nothing to do with funding. We can stop the conversation now because I can't convince you, but there is a decided difference between supporting this application for consideration purposes and supporting this application for funding purposes. Two separate issues. And if you can't understand it, then we might just as well drop the conversation. Because all I want is your support to consider the application, because we as the Board of Selectmen are responsible for it being late. We're responsible for having formed the committee late.
So
And rather than go into it any further, let's just drop the issue, call it quits. But that's the difference.
So it's not the difference, because I'm telling you right now, if we were having the same conversation 10 days before the application was due, I would be having the same conversation with you. Whether or not the application was late or on time, I have the same opinion that at this point in the process, it's not appropriate. So
If I
I'm
may.
happy we can agree to disagree and move on. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, I
Ross,
just want to be clear. It is being considered, correct? I don't want to, it's already being considered. So why do you need the selectmen to
No, it
say
is not
consider it?
necessarily being considered. It can be dismissed. I have been given permission to go before the board and present my argument as to why it should be considered. Not that it will be considered. There's a difference. And therefore, what can I say? You have to understand the differences between these different positions. I tried, I failed. Let's drop it.
Okay. Anyone else have anything on this? Nope. Okay. Mitch, did you have anything else for us?
No, Madam Chair, I do not.
Okay. Any other selectmen have updates? Denise?
Yeah, I just wanted to alert folks to the fact that my sister lives next to the police station, so very close to the DPW property. And we got a letter saying that they're going to be blasting starting June 5th or thereabouts, and offering to do a free inspection because the house is so close, to make sure that there's no damage caused to the house. And just wanted to let people know that the blasting is going to begin soon. There shouldn't be any problems, but just so people are aware, that's what's happening if you feel something and you're in the area.
We also intend to put a code red out to that immediate area in addition to
good.
the survey, a surveyor notice that went out. Blasting will not be the primary use to remove the ledge that's there. They will do some jackhammering and some drilling with some heavy equipment. They'll bring in the blasting equipment on an as needed basis throughout.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Denise. It's good to know that they're keeping in good contact with the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yep.
Awesome. Ross?
I just want to say that obviously everyone here attended the memorial parade. It was great. The whole day was great. Right up from the ceremonies all the way down to the DPW, flattening out the rocks for us down on Lumber Wharf. So a lot of work went into the town, and also the Memorial Day committee, parade committee also did a great job. So I just want to thank everyone for that.
Thank you, Ross. It was really special.
It was, just to add on to that. I've received so many compliments to basically to the DPW, which I've passed along, but just how fantastic town looked going into last weekend. The restrooms were open, the trash is emptied on time. Gary and crew, they're doing a great job with scheduling, staying on top of things. Gary's really responsive. And I know that people really, really appreciate it. And just the town was certainly ready for Memorial Day. And that parade and ceremony just blows me away every year. It's just so special. Earl Kashida does a great job. The committee does a great job. So it really is an honor to be a part of it. So, Herm, did you have any other updates?
No, no, focusing on what I've talked about. Thank you.
I don't think I had anything else either. I think that's it. Anyone else have anything before we move on to public comment? Nope.
Nope.
Okay, we'll move on to our second public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or use the hand raise symbol. Toby?
Thank you. Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. I'm delighted that you've launched the long-range planning effort. When it actually gets going, I imagine you will be meeting 3 times a month rather than twice, because you have a hard time regularly getting through the town's regular business, much of which is petty and all of which is important at the time being. And there's no time to discuss wider and larger concerns. I was very much puzzled that you decided to allocate the homes funds to Harbor Light. I think Denise's suggestion that it be restricted to 5 Granite Street Crossing was a good one, but why would it be given to Harbor Light when now we have the Affordable Housing Trust? That could have been seed money to start the trust. So
Unfortunately, it could not, Toby. The requirements were very explicit relating to what that could go to. It needed to be a bricks and mortar project that's going now.
I see. Okay. And when we get going with the long-term planning, I would repeat my remarks about presentations to the public. Obviously, a lot of the information that you're going to come up with is technical and specialized and not of great interest to the public. But at the point where it all begins to come together and look like it might mean something with practical consequences, at that point, the consultant should be required to come here and present it at a public hearing. And indeed, such proceedings should be a standard feature of any contract that your board lets for consulting. It should go without saying, because each and every one of these plans, projects is done, for the people who are going to make the immediate decisions, whether it's your board, the planning board, the DPW commissioners. But in fact, if anything is going to happen from any of these ventures, it requires money, and that only comes from a town meeting. So it makes sense, whether or not you're interested in the public comment, to involve the public when you have an actual product and before it is a final product. And at some point, I'd like an acknowledgement of that, and the board to consider that it should be a board policy to incorporate such public hearings for all projects that we pay for consultants. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing none? I think that's it. Okay, and we have no executive session tonight?
No executive session.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Selectman Brackett,
aye.
Selectman Lilia,
All right.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectwoman Wilkinson. Aye. Thanks very much. See everybody soon.
Good night.
Good night.